Last week we were looking at this sort of life journey, how we choose to make our journey through life filled with not only filled with goals, but that how we allow by awareness to see that there are more fulfilling goals the further we go in life, that we don't want to get caught up in a circuit of just feeding those lower needs, and that there's actually greater fulfillment comes from living the best life that we can. And then sort of looking at hurdles on the way of that. So Buddhism is generally, one of the names for Buddhism is the middle way, because the Buddha 2,500 years ago, I'm not going to make this too so religious, but the Buddha, he was just a philosopher really who observed what was happening in his life. He first of all, when he decided, I won't do the initial bit about his story, but when he went out in search of truth, of understanding, of purpose in life, he first of all followed these ascetics. You know, these people who sort of flagellated themselves with whips, starved themselves after death, and he tried to do that to see whether that would bring him to enlightenment, and it just brought him to the brink of death. Catholics have got a good track history in that, haven't they, as well? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But he didn't find that got him anywhere other than very close to death. He had been born in as a prince, Prince Siddhartha, and so he had been brought up with, you know, all the worldly possessions, and that hadn't got him anywhere. So the middle path is very much about, we're not trying to sort of deny materiality, and we're not trying to get lost in materiality either. So it's a middle path. You know, we have, our bodies are there to, you know, to live life, to experience life, and to share life with others. But often we have a tendency to get caught up in habits and destructive patterns that don't really lead us up that pyramid. We get caught up with greed and so on and so forth, that just kind of are never ending, you know. There's never an end to a life that's filled with greed. You can never have enough. It's just a self-perpetuating thing. So this middle path is very much about trying to find a way of living your life, taking that journey that we talked about, where the obstacles, we don't battle with the obstacles in our life, the things that hold us back. We learn to just kind of be like water and to move around them, to flush them out of the way, just because we're not going to get engaged with them, if that makes sense. I often think of a lot of these practices a bit like cleaning the pipes, you know, of detritus, but without actually doing anything, because all you have to do is notice that there's shit there, and it kind of dissolves. That's all this practice is really about. It's, you know, you're aware when problems arise, when blockages on your path arise, your awareness basically is the main thing that's needed. Your awareness combined with acceptance, so you don't get caught up in that battle. So in a lot of ways, that journey that we talk about, although we often automatically think about it as being a journey through life, as in through time. So yeah, I'm a young woman who started my professional life. I'm at university. I'm going to go on and get a job. Maybe I'll choose to get married. Maybe I'll choose to have kids. Maybe I'll become a CEO. You know, and this is my life path. But what the thing we were talking about last week is worth sort of thinking about more is it's not so much about the outer things in this journey. It's about you unfolding you as a person, clearing out the things that stop you from engaging with life as a flowing, living, ever-changing thing. where you just are able to go with the flow with whatever it is. And that will influence your outer life massively. But those goals, so meditation is much more, and mindful living, about becoming so aware of your interaction with the world that you learn to swim with the current and to basically make your life more smooth and more at ease, and more fulfilling, so that you're also a more useful person in society. You don't get many people who are murderers who are also meditators, as I'm aware. Certainly not sincere meditators, anyway. So, what I was going to look at is there's two aspects to this today. So I want to look at how we're going to nourish ourselves. So we've become aware in the last few weeks about a lot of the obstacles. Basically stress, emotional trauma, pain, physical pain, problems of time stress, and becoming lost in our roles in life. These are all the sort of barnacles on our journey that can get in the way. But as we've already discussed, by bringing our attention to those in our lives in the moment that we experience them, they kind of dissipate. But we need to also have energy in life. Because if we're going to make the most out of life, we need to have not just physical energy. Physical energy is really good because it obviously brings physical benefits on many levels and makes your brain work better and more oxygen you've got pumping around, all of that stuff we know. But having a sort of more vital quality, joy, things like that in our lives, actually really, really fills us with a stronger and stronger energy to be more resilient to things. Yep. So one of the things that we struggle with is that our brains are hardwired to remember negative experiences much more than positive ones. So I mentioned about the 5 times more likely to remember a negative experience. But it's a bit like, the old red traffic lights thing. Oh, I always get caught like that bloody red traffic light. It's always red. Well, the fact is, it isn't. But we only remember the times that it's red, because each time it's there, each time it's green, we just go through it. But each time it's red, it's like, bloody red light again. So we're hardwired to see and store problems because there are things in our lives that, in terms of survival, we have to be more and more acutely aware of. Yeah? So what I want to look at is really ways to try and see those things that are holding us back and turn them from being problems into being sources of energy by flipping them around, by being mindfully aware of them. So there are also, the Buddha said, life is a creation of your mind. So it's very much your attitude in life makes a huge, huge difference to how you experience your journey. That's an obvious thing to say. But, if you've got a positive attitude, and you surround yourself by other people with positive attitudes, you have a much better chance of making the most out of things and enjoying yourself. I don't wish to sound judgmental on this. I'm very cautious how to say this, but somebody gave me the analogy once that said that people are like plumbing systems. You have either drains or radiators. Those people who just are great to be around. They're always, glass half full. And there are those people that I certainly know a few who are just like, I used to work with somebody who'd come into office and I was falling to the chat every morning going, morning, how are you this morning? Oh God, you won't believe it. There was an earthquake on the way to the office. And my daughter's dying of emphysema and whatever. It really was. It was about half a dozen things every day that the world was falling apart around her. And you couldn't help but think, so much of this it's sort of like it feeds office. So it's really, really important to have a positive outlook on life. So, anything else I was going to say on all of that? Yeah, well, I suppose the only thing I was going to say in terms of general things that to be aware of, which I don't think I have a problem with convincing any of you to do, is that there are certain things in life, I mean basically anything, any activity with a positive attitude you can turn into something that is fun or engaging. So even doing the washing up can be engaging if you have the right mindset. But there are some things that are more naturally inclined towards joy. So I would have said horse riding, but I don't think I'm going to use that one
It
today.
brings me joy. Still having fun.
But laughing, dancing, singing, you know, they're all really, really good things. And they're things that I think are so important in life.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've always been that kind of person, and people just, you know, you really do start to separate the wheat from the chaff. And I have a very good friend of mine, I love her dearly, but I was staying with her, and I can't help myself. I woke up in the morning and went, morning, but I knew she'd be in bed, so I just kind of went, morning, like that. And luckily Maria was there as well. And she goes, oh my God, why did you have to shout that? Why do you always have to be so cheery? And Maria just said, oh, she said good morning. Because she said, you don't have to go, good morning. I just said good morning. That's how she.
Yeah.
See, our
So there are five, but putting that aside for a minute, there are basically what we have in Zen, there are things called 5 hindrances. 5 things, I'll be a bit late, so I'm going over the place. 5 things that are so classic archetypes that become hurdles in our life. Things that drain us of energy. Okay? So, sorry, rewind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, I may have already said this before in a previous week, but it doesn't do any harm to repeat it. There are basically 4 types of mindfulness. Okay? There is mindfulness of the mind. And there is mindfulness of mind objects. By that, I mean thoughts, memories, images, things created by the mind. But that's not the same as mindfulness of mind. You can have no thoughts going through your head and still be mindful of your mental capacity, your mental presence. Yeah? And mindfulness of the body in the same way, and mindfulness of bodily sensations. Okay? Now, if we split those into 2, just to keep things simple, when we say mindfulness of the mind and mindfulness of the body, incorporating the objects with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at mindfulness of the mind to start with, in terms of how we nurture ourselves. So the key thing here is that our mind is obviously the thing that sees, that hears, that observes everything that's going on. So it's really good to have the mindfulness of our mind where you can notice when we're not feeling very energetic. Yeah? It's the processing centre. When we come on to mindfulness of the body, we're going to be looking much more at using the body as the sort of generator of energy, okay? And in different ways, in different levels. But the mind we're going to cover first because, as you say, as the Buddha said, you are the creation of your mind, and as we've also said, our attitudes make our lives, really. So it all starts in the mind. So, what are the things? There are 5 things. 5 things. That's almost 2 each, but 5 things that, and you don't have to get the exact words. That doesn't matter. But 5 things that you think would stop you having, this isn't specifically experiences. This is behavioural traits, let's say, that would stop you from having a joyful experience in that time. What are the negative things that get in the way from energy? Jealousy, yeah. That's a subset of one of them, definitely. So I'll take that because we're going to be here for hours.
Circles we had? No.
Circles, no. What do we have circles? Sorry? No, I see. No, it's not quite. That's more comprehensive. These are the 5 things. It's very simple. So yes, jealousy is one of them, but it's within a bigger group name. So we would call that ill will. So that's basically like anger, jealousy, hatred, yeah, all of those sort of things that where we basically have negative vibes towards other people. Yeah. Another one? Anybody? This one's there's another one that's much less obvious, but which is a big one in Buddhism. One of the things that gets in the way, in fact, it's the main thing of the Four Noble Truths. It is the main cause of suffering.
It's not esteem, is it?
Not a
Esteem.
esteem? No. It's does esteem fit in there anyway? Esteem would fit in a different one, actually, in a way. Less obvious in a way, but it is desire. Well, because desire or yearning is that feeling of, I really want that new Ferrari, or I really want that gorgeous woman, or whatever it might be, yeah? It's that, I don't have it and I want it. Now that is suffering, yeah? And it is the root of most suffering because it's basically, I'm not happy with the way things are. I want something different. I'd like it if I wasn't ill. I'd like it if I wasn't overweight. I'd like it if I was fitter, if I was younger. There are things that aren't, automatically going to happen. So the fact that I'm not at ease with how things are, desire for things to be different, causes suffering. Yep.
Would control or power?
Well, control that comes under that as well, because control is very much the you want to you basically you want control. You want things to be the way you want them to be, rather than allowing them to be however they are. I'll speed it up and give you some other ideas here. Lack of. Yeah, in a way, yes. Well, we're going to. All of these are valid. Don't get me wrong, but. Restlessness. Basically, you're not at ease. You're constantly. It's like anxiety you put within the bracket of restlessness. Things aren't. Because you can imagine the vibe that comes off restlessness. The vibe that comes off desire and that vibe that comes off ill will. So these are very archetypal things. Another one which I'm sure you would have all got very quickly otherwise, but torpor.
I would have got that.
So, sloth is, or sloth, I'm not quite sure how you put it. It's a lack of physical energy. Yeah. Torpor is a lack of mental energy. So, basically, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty horrible feeling. And depression would probably fit into that. Clinical depression would probably come within that sort of range. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, and you just get everything's gone. And then the last one, we'll look at, how do I change that? Yeah, skeptical doubt. So that is, what was the thing that you said, Jackie? Fits into that one. I'm sure it was one of the things that you just said a minute ago. Sorry?
Oh, lack of awareness.
Yeah, so, skeptical doubt, you often don't believe in yourself, or you don't have any sort of belief in the value of anything often. So, yeah. So those are the sort of archetypal, what we call the 5 hindrances. Now, but the good thing is that they are We can change them. Hey, hey! Bit of positive energy. So, ill will. So, what could, if we were, sorry? Goodwill, yeah. Yep, well, this is true. Goodwill is definitely it, but yeah, so ill will basically, in terms of action, you might see it as things like helping people, generosity, forgiveness.
See, I forget things.
You did what? You gave the horse, yeah. So if you've got, I mean, if you think of any of the sort of the subsets of ill will, then you can think what the opposite would be. So anger, you would think probably forgiveness is the thing. Jealousy, what would be the thing to turn jealousy around?
Self-love.
Or love for that, if you're love for yourself and love for that other person who you're jealous of.
Appreciation.
Yeah. So there's all of these sort of things. So it's, from a mental standpoint, it's learning to spot these things. So I think, did we, oh no, yeah, this week, one of this week's practices, don't works, is going to be to spot each day things to be grateful for. This is what I mean when I say, you know, we're going to, because the red traffic light is the thing that we most readily notice, we're going to try and redress the balance and start bringing our awareness to the negative stuff that is, as it arises, and think, actually, I'm not going to allow that negative to take it. I'm going to find the positive, the flip side. Yeah. So, desire.
Fulfillment.
Yeah. Probably within the fulfillment, I'd say you'd express the things like gratitude. Peace, did you say? Yeah. What was the thing you just said, mentioned, wasn't it? Fulfillment. Yeah. I mean, you don't need anything if you're feeling fulfilled, do you? That's very much so. What did you say, Jackie? Feast. I can only do one thing at a time. My brain doesn't work fast enough. So in all of these sort of things, yeah. So finding peace and fulfillment, being grateful for what you've got, those are all things that stop you feeling desire as much. And you know, you start to see, I mean, I think with all of these things, the more you tune yourself in, the more you just start to actually realise how phenomenally lucky all of us are here. You know, I was just talking with Imogen earlier about some 9-year-old girl shot in her own home yesterday. There's awful things that go on in the world. People who live in abject poverty and squalor. In fact, I've started liking on Facebook these old photographs, black and white photographs from 100 years ago, because I find it quite interesting to look back at them. Some of them, I mean, these sort of coal mining families and things, and you just look at them and think, God, the conditions they lived in just 100 years ago was awful. And that was 100 years ago. What about 1,000 years ago? I mean, so much of humanity has actually lived in absolutely awful conditions. So we've got an enormous amount to be grateful for, and we really don't need to spend our time and energy worrying about whether we can afford the next.
There was on the radio when I came back from the hospital today, there was a woman being interviewed. She'd taken people in Ukrainian refugees, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you know, this policy was supposed to be 6 months and then see what happens. And clearly, she came on because we're talking about all these people who suddenly are in a position where the government is stepping back, but they've got families in their home and they don't want to obviously throw them out. And there's a moral dilemma what to do. And she said, "What have you learned?" And she said, "I really learned that if I ever thought I had a problem, I really don't, because this is now here and now. These families, what they're facing, how they've been completely thrown out. She said, generosity of all the people around her, neighbours, friends, family, and
Yeah.
everybody kind of came together. So it was the positive outcome from what's going on.
If you want to look at the sort of real baseline, you know, if you're here and breathing, there's more right with you than wrong with you. Everything above that is cream on the cake or cherry on the cake. So, you know, and we get so lost, and all of us do to one degree or another, in our desires. So what about a sort of remedy for restlessness? Huh? Yeah, how are we going to do that?
Be restful.
Give me another word, give me a good word, give me something that's really, really appropriate. Something that's going to stop you being restless and make you at ease. Thank you! Meditation and mindfulness! Painkillers. Meditation mind. So yeah, but also, yes, good rest if you need them, painkillers. You know, listening into your body. You know, if you're restless and you've got all this sort of frazzling energy going on, I mean, I find that when I'm using my phone for any length of time, and I notice it, that if I'm a bit bored, if I'm putting off doing something else, I'll just automatically find myself picking up my phone and going, what's happened to the news? Oh, nothing different than 5 minutes ago. What about my emails? And Twitter or whatever. And it's back and forth, put the phone down for 5 minutes, or maybe even 5 seconds. Pick it back up again. What's on Netflix? You know, and I find myself drained by it. I find my head starting to go, this sort of frazzled feeling coming on. You know, that's restless energy. And it's learning to notice that when it comes and finding even just a few minutes to sit in silence and sit in peace, to go for a walk in nature, to rebalance that. Because this is all about nourishing ourselves. So, yeah, rest, sleep, all of those things.
Yeah, my mum always said, like, you never fully rest, like you're always doing something. And I always thought being on my phone was like resting.
Yeah.
But it's just not. She was like, you don't actually switch off. And ever since, because when you work in a nursery, you're literally not allowed your phone. So when you walk in the door, you put it in a safe and then get it back. So I'll go at my phone for half an hour a day and then whatever in the evening. Honestly, I genuinely found that like I would always go and pick up my phone and I was like really addicted to it.
Yeah.
And 100% was. I used to spend like 8 hours on my phone a day, 9 hours. And honestly, having a job where I'm there for 10 hours a day and not going on it, I think that's really increased the restlessness stuff. I think that's really good.
Yeah. It's so paying attention to when it's out of kilter, because and it's that sort of the restlessness. So this is mindfulness of the mind we're talking about as well. That is very head energy, when you're doing that, when you're plugged into technology, and head energy is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think I found that, obviously I grew up without mobile phones and stuff like that, so you see both sides of it. There wasn't a problem with feeling bored before we had mobile phones and stuff. It actually generated a lot of imagination. Like you'd write, you'd go and do things, or you just go and sort of, do something, and go and see people. Now you straight away pick up your phone, but you're not going out to see anyone, you're not going to experience anything new.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm addicted to my phone, like anyone else. But,
Yeah.
you forget how to do that.
You do. It's actually why one of the reasons why going on things like retreats, which has a slightly more good going on retreat thing to some people, but actually can be, the type of retreats we do at Zenways is quite hardcore, but just actually, going, and there's a place I remember looking up, I found that there's a shepherd's hut somewhere in Kent, where you literally can take your dog, you can go on your own for a weekend, and just walk your dog and sort of, and actually something like that, without a phone, without anything, hugely restorative, and you just get time to sort of be with yourself, which probably to a lot of people would be very uncomfortable to start with, but it's actually something we really, really need.
I think it's becoming more and more popular. I'm sure young people,
Yeah.
just because they've no Wi-Fi, they've no nothing, and they come back completely sober and people.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre to think that that's like a thing.
Yeah, it's like we're in the Western world are starting to wake up to the fact that, because it's like this is pulling at us. We have more mental ill health now, I think, than probably at any time. You know, because we're not in balance. We've become addicted to this stuff. We really have. But the opposite end of things, sloth and torpor. Okay, what do you think I might do to overcome a bit of sloth and torpor?
It's like physical exercise.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because that does help your mind as well as your body. So it does help that as well as that. Although obviously, you know, where your base point is, how energized and how fit you are, might make it seem like that's an impossible task. So again, it's like a lot of these things. It's like, you know, that person I was saying who had a very negative attitude and has sort of worked themselves down into the depths of depression, that everything is a problem. Similarly with this, you know, if you've allowed yourself to get really, really down, and I'm not qualified to talk about clinical depression, but you know, if you're just feeling down, you know, you've broken up in a relationship or something like that, and everything seems to be going bad. You know, if you don't catch that early enough by picking up the physical exercise, and you've still got some energy, then it becomes harder and harder. And we will be doing a bit of physical movement, which we'll try to adapt to religion. But it's not so much. So this sort of thing, actually, you know, physical exercise, going for a dance,
Yeah.
having a bop, having a laugh, you know, that gets the old system going. You know, that's what we really need. So what makes it even more effective, if you're, whatever physical movement you're doing, you do mindfully. Because then you're bringing the mind as well as the body into this. So, and as we said, when we're doing that little meditation, the energy follows thought. So if you can bring your awareness to the energy in your body as you're doing physical movements, then it's a very holistic process. And then skeptical doubt, I'll read you a little bit about that one. Basically, have any of you heard of, probably haven't, I did done checking. I only say that from an age point of view. You're all right by the way, Imogen, you look a bit pained.
We're okay.
You're okay. Have you got painkillers?
Not on me.
I don't
They
think I
knocked me
have.
out, so I've been taking them.
Okay, so we're getting there. So, but Douglas Bader. Has anybody heard of Douglas Bader? No. So Douglas Bader was a Second World War flying ace. I think he was Second World War. What do I write about him? Oh well, yeah. He actually. So he was he was an early aviator, and in 1931 he had a flying accident, crashed, and had both his legs amputated. But 9 years later, he flew during the Battle of Britain with artificial legs and was a flying hero. And so this is about positive mental attitude for skeptical doubt and resilience. That can-do attitude that's so important to fight off the skeptical doubt. The I will do it whatever happens type of approach. So he did that. When he was a hero of the Battle of Britain in 1940, he wrote a short time after that, I believe he said, "Don't listen to anyone who tells you you can't do this or that. That's nonsense. Never, never let them persuade you that things are too difficult or impossible." You know, and there are some incredible people on this planet who just have fortitude beyond anything. You know, people who've gone to the North Pole and all of these sort of things, despite the most challenging and horrific conditions. I have to say, I'm not sure that I would ever be one of them. But, you know, belief in yourself is really, really important. So, you know, the key to all of this is if you wait until one of the 5 hindrances has you in its grasp, it's much harder to free yourself. Just as when we talked about being aware of the stressors in your life, you know, those things that somebody who you have a bit of an antagonistic relationship says something sarky to you and you just go back at them, you know, and you've missed that moment of awareness where you see this unfolding and you have a choice point where you turn that unconscious reaction into a conscious response. And that's true of all of these as well. You know, the key is to familiarizing yourself with your traits, your habits, getting to know yourself inside out by watching, by listening to what happens in and around you. There's one of my fellow teachers, a chap called Mark Westernkett's written a book recently called, what is it called? Never start a sentence if you can't finish it. Dealing with difficult people or something like that, or difficult people are your best teachers, something like that. And it's a book where he's explored and interviewed various people about these sort of things. But you know, the challenges we face in life are not things to battle against, ignore, get stroppy about. They're teachers. So all of these things, everything that happens to you that you don't like, there should be a ding, 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 ding in the back of your mind to go, what's this trying to teach me about me? Because I'm the one who's reacting a certain way. And this is your life. Isn't it exciting to go on the adventure of really, really discovering your life?
I have a question. So I have one of my managers at work who's not very nice to me, but she was happy to be the owner of the place, and like I always try and think all of those things to myself, but then it doesn't stop me from like having the worst day ever and being really annoyed. And obviously I spend from like 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. there, so it's like my whole day. So what would your advice from that perspective be? So if she said something to me, my normal reaction is to just be like, okay, I'll do that, or okay, whatever. Like for example, there was, you know, that day when we had the really bad storm, it was like thunder and lightning. She made me go and walk a baby for half an hour outside. So like in that moment, I was like, okay, and I thought that was like the right decision, but then.
Did you think it was the right decision?
I don't think it is now.
So, what was the right decision? To take the baby for a walk?
No, or do I say something, like, because you're saying that it's my life, like, that you have the choice,
Yeah.
or, like, I don't understand, because she's a really difficult person, what I should say to myself, because it still really upsets me.
Well, I think like all things, relationships are processes. So I'm not suggesting that there's a magical cure that can stop something in its tracks. I'm saying that by becoming aware, perhaps starting with the things. So, for example, if taking the baby for a walk in the rain, you thought that's the most daft idea imaginable because the baby could get hurt. Well, on the one hand, you think to yourself, if you think it's actually dangerous, and to you and to the baby, then I think it's right that you say, I won't do that because I don't believe that that's the right thing to do. And I'm sorry, you're my boss. You want to sack me, you can sack me, but I will explain to the mother why I don't think that's right, because I think that's dangerous. So that's taking a moral stand. You know, that's not doing that from the point of view of being bloody minded, as in, I don't want to go in the bloody rain. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's not from that standpoint, it's from a calm, considered judgment that says, that's not the right thing to do. You know, you are a strong, powerful human being who, you are responsible for your world. So making the right call is down to you. But what I would say is, starting with, most of the time, it's better to start with the things that are more manageable. Just like when you've got a physical pain, feeling into a pain where you've stubbed your finger is a little bit easier than when you've broken 3 toes and whatever, sorry, ankles and things like that. You know, so starting with smaller things is always easier. So, you know, if there are situations, I would work on the basis that it's an adventure to try and see how much you can change the relationship without kowtowing. And that starts with you, because she's not looking to change. You're looking to change the relationship.
Yeah.
So when she asks you to do something you don't really fancy doing, but she's doing, try to take a positive spin on it. Try to be not just like, I can't do that, but just like, great idea, let's do that. Change her perception of you, and she will change her behaviour towards you, most likely.
Okay.
And even if she doesn't, you will have changed your perception of yourself.
Yeah.
You will have a positive attitude which will get you through the day better. So you have this wellspring of positivity within you. If you feel negativity rising within you, any of these, whether it's, you know, you're feeling desire that it should be different, or ill will towards her because she's trying to control you, flip it around. How much can I allow this to be a lesson for me? How much can I allow myself to go with the flow and let my ego drop away? We all have this. And it's not necessarily easy. I mean, it probably won't be easy.
Yeah.
But if you try it a little bit and observe, watch within yourself your capacity to do that, then when you come away from that thinking, there's a little bit of a victory in that as well. There's a sense of, you know, because she probably isn't actually trying to punish you in any way. She is probably got her own shit
Yeah.
in her life that she's spewing out, and you happen to be the target.
She makes me really self-conscious and feel really bad about myself
Yeah.
because of like her actions. So it's quite interesting if you look at it as in how far can I take it to learn something out of it. I just always end up feeling really embarrassed. You know that feeling when you get embarrassed and like, oh, I should never even said anything. Like that's the thing that really makes me feel
Well, what does
bad.
embarrassment really feel like? Learn, feel into embarrassment. What is it like? Because you can let go of embarrassment more once you kind of know it.
Yeah.
You go beyond it. If you've literally just try, feel into whatever arises. You don't have to try and solve it. Feel into what arises. If that's embarrassment, if that's discomfort or ill will, feel into it and then think, I have a choice. Can I flip this around? Can I bring a smile onto my face and go, this is an opportunity for me to learn, for me to fill myself with positive energy, not for her to drain me. You might even visualize it, you know, her sucking your energy out, and instead you're filling yourself with more energy than she can possibly handle because you're positive.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I like that. Good.
Try to take that approach and see what happens.
I'll update you next week.
Fantastic. So this is what this is really all about, is bringing this stuff into our physical body. So we notice it with our minds, and then how do we make it come alive in our bodies? And awareness is the key to it all. Really, it's the problem with this stuff is that if I sit there and I say, well, actually, all of this 8 weeks is really about awareness and acceptance. Well, that's not much of an 8-week course. But ultimately, that is what it kind of boils down to. But there's so many different aspects of our life, and we actually, pretty much all of us, need to be told this over and over and over and again with every different example that we can possibly think of. Because we kind of don't want the easy answer. Well, it's not easy to enact, but the easy to understand answer. We're looking for something, because we're so used to working with our cognitive minds, we're thinking, somebody's going to give me a magic formula that will make it all disappear and make it all smooth and easy going. And the only magical formula is pay attention to what's really happening. Notice when you're feeling your own energy drain away, when you're feeling your energy surge, and see how much you have control over that. See how much you can be. You know, you're the spark of consciousness within each of us has created an entire universe of a body. You know, we have, is it 7 systems in our body? The circulatory system, the nervous system, the muscular system, the skeletal system. You know, we are the most complex things. Our brains has something like 10 to the power of 14 synapse connections within it. Bigger than the galaxy in terms of stars in the galaxy, which is also vast. So we are the most phenomenal creatures, and we have been created out of an egg and a seed, you know, and this is what, you know, the power that has made you, the universe that has made you, is within you. You know it, you know, and feel into it, because it's not up here. It's becoming aware of it in your presence, and you know, when you feel joy flood through you, when you feel laughter and happiness and the dancing music taking you, fucking love it. Sorry, but you know, really, really feel it. This is life, the power of life coursing through you. And you have the power to turn the dial up or down. You know, these are traps that are there, built into our individual programming. So, you know, the thing is that what so much of the core of Buddhism is about, really, is that as you take your practice deeper and deeper in meditation and mindful awareness, the more you notice that there is the perspective that we all take most of the time, which is there's me, there's you, there's you, there's you, there's the room, the cars outside, the traffic, separate, 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 everything is separate. Now, there is a truth to that. Physical form, you know, we are separate. But there is also the truth that we are all actually the same. Energetically, everything that has made the universe, we are literally made, in terms of the minerals in our bodies, of stardust. You know, it's phenomenal. And actually, when you have the experiences that deep meditation can take you to, you come to know that. It's not an intellectual thing. You come to know yourself as part of everything, and everything as part of you. There is no difference. So that, think about an atom bomb, the power that comes from splitting an atom. You know, you're made up of millions of atoms. Billions probably, I've got no idea. But you know, there is an enormous amount of energy potential within you. And that energy, when it freely flows through you without these blockages in the way, is a marvelously liberating thing. And I don't say that as if I'm some, you know, teacher sitting on a mountaintop. I've just experienced enough of a sense of it to know that it's there, and that the more you feel into it, the more it becomes alive. So it's, you know, it's very much something that the more you engage, the more you don't have skeptical doubt and oh, let it tosh. The more you engage with stuff, with direct experience. I mean, that is the beauty of Zen. It's not really about doctrine. These are sort of little guide signposts, really. Point you in the right direction, things to look out for. But really what it's about is you noticing and learning your universe, the world that you exist in, the blockages in your life, the things that you resist, that you hold on to, that you want to grasp at, and seeing them as empty nothingness, and therefore becoming this flowing river of consciousness that is just freedom itself, and happiness and joy, you know. And that sounds a little bit poetic, but you know, the deeper you go into the stuff, the more you really, really realise that that's quite true. So, time is ticking. God, I'm going to fill everything up. Let's try and do, I'm going to do a speeded up version of a couple of things. I'm going to switch it off now because the rest will be on videos that I will post on the WhatsApp group.